Tracy Williams joins us on the show. Man, did you really think that I was going to say somebody who's not died yet?
I mean, it's Halloween.
I
don't
kind
know.
of thought it was coming too. I kind of thought it was coming too. I didn't know what kind of show this was, but yeah, I'll just pile on and say also, my respect and sadness towards the loss of Tracy Smothers. He was always super supportive and positive and really like energetic whenever I was lucky enough to be on shows with him when he was still gracing the independents with his presence. That probably would have been like 7 years ago or something like that. I know he's had a rough time for a while with health, but even right before that, he was on the indies, energetic as hell, helping everybody out. I had a couple matches with him too in AIW in Ohio, where we kind of jokingly were fighting over the name Tracy. We were just kind of like, it wasn't like a storyline or anything, but he was just he's so good at talking crap in the ring that he would go back and forth with me, and then like I'd give him a big chop or something, be like, all right, you can have it, damn, take it. So yeah, rest in peace to Tracy Smothers for sure.
Oh man, I've seen him wrestle numerous times, and I got in trouble because the first time I saw him wrestle, I was doing this, and I didn't know what it meant at the time. That was kind of like the DX suck it chop. But anyways, oh man. So let's kind of talk about Tracy Williams. You got a big match coming up. The ROH Pure Tournament Finals is Monday, November 2nd. It's at 7 p.m. Eastern. You and a guy that, well, you have a lot of history with, Jonathan Gresham, for the ROH Pure title. Let's talk about the big match, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's unbelievable. It's such a big point in my career because the Pure Championship is fresh back on the scene, and it's the kind of thing that wrestlers like me and like John have been wishing for a long time and pushing for a long time. And it's given guys like us this trophy to shoot for, this like shining light to reach for, brass ring, whatever you want to call it. It's like now there's something like that for pure wrestlers, for people who thrive in a one-on-one pro wrestling environment when you strip away all the nonsense and focus on what we really came to do, which is wrestle. So yeah, it's huge, and I'm not taking it lightly. I know John's not either. And like you said, John and I have a lot of history, so it's really cool to be on that platform with somebody that you know so well and who you've had matches with in all sorts of environments. Like John and I have wrestled at Beyond Wrestling on like New Year's Eve at like 11:50 p.m., like right before the ball drops or whatever, and all sorts of like different indie environments. And so even though it is this big stage and this big match, it's like it almost feels comfortable and natural because we're here together. So it's really cool, and it's cool to face off with like a rival like that on a stage like that.
I was just surprised it's taken them so long to bring the title back.
Yeah, I would agree with you. But I don't know. I mean, I think that's kind of the struggle of pure wrestling, is like there's this stigma that it doesn't draw or that it's not, this exciting thing, but it's really like it says it's called pro wrestling. So
right. I mean, that's the core of what we love. I mean, it's kind of the foundation.
Yeah.
Not to plug his nickname, but
Tracy's gonna come to the screen and slap you here in a second.
Don't say that. Don't you say that.
We kind of talk about history, and I want to talk about your history. Kind of tell us about your background. Like, have you always been a wrestling fan? And who are some of your favorites growing up, and who did you train with?
Yeah, I've always been a wrestling fan since I was a little kid. My grandfather introduced me to wrestling, actually, where my brother and I would go up and visit him, and he lives in Canada. And there's not all that much to do up there, but he had this like vast library of wrestling tapes from like WCW, NWA, and WWF, and all this stuff. And so every time we'd go up there, we'd just like burn through a bunch of these tapes, watch them, and learn who everybody was, and learn about stuff from before we were born, all the way up to that current moment. And so from then on, I was hooked on it. And then I lived in New York City my whole life, so I would get to go every now and then to like a house show at Madison Square Garden and stuff, and like see it in person. And it's kind of the only thing that like I really latched onto in life. Like I had no aspirations to like go to college and like get this like special job. I didn't want to be a doctor. I didn't want to I didn't have drive for that kind of stuff, but like I loved wrestling and I had a drive for it. So I'm really lucky to be doing it because, I think wrestling is one of those things that just like, it either bites you or it doesn't. And like when it bites you, like it doesn't really let go. You just like are you just kind of love it forever. So to get to sort of dedicate my life to it is super special. I love it.
Man, and it's, wrestling, everybody has that story of like watching wrestling, and everybody has from up north, it's always been the Madison Square Garden stories. And here for me in Nashville, it's the fairgrounds, the historic fairgrounds where everything has happened. And it's kind of a cool moment to go back and think about your very first wrestling match that you ever saw, like the big ones when they came into town. So who did you train with when you got started in wrestling?
I trained at the Chikara Wrestle Factory in 2008, where the head trainers at the time were Mike Quackenbush and Claudio Castagnoli, Cesaro, as he's known now. And so I was super lucky for that. It was in Philadelphia, and like I said, I lived in New York, so I knew I wanted to train there because those guys' style was just like unmatched. And you could see it in the people that they trained. That like everybody that worked with them had such a dedication to doing everything right, and having like a wide range of different like styles that they could do. So that really appealed to me. And so I went to a Chikara show on I took the Chinatown bus to Philly, and I went to a show at the arena, which was cool. It's my first time at the ECW arena too. Like you were saying, one of those like things you've seen all your life, and then all of a sudden you're there.
Right.
And it being there made me realize like how close it was, and it seemed like this far off land that like you couldn't go to. It's just like, oh, that's where ECW happens. That's Philly. It's far away because I don't know, in New York sometimes you get stuck there. Happens to a lot of people. But I found the Chinatown bus, made it to Philly, and I realized this is easy. I could do this every week. The bus is cheap. They have a school here. I can do it. And so I signed up, and I joined wrestling school. It's like running away to join the circus. And so I would go every week to Philly, um, walk in with my little bag into the back of the ECW arena and get in a wrestling ring, for the first time in my life, and fell in love with it. And yeah, really lucky to have that training too, because I think it set me up to be in a position like this in like a pure tournament, because they were so focused on doing everything right and nailing all the techniques, so it helped.
So speaking of that organization, it kind of ended up being like a who's who of pro wrestling. I mean, everyone from CM Punk to Daniel Bryan to the Young Bucks and Briscoes, who are obviously in Ring of Honor with you. Were there any standout matches you had there? Just like, holy crap, I can't believe this is happening. Or like any that you thought like never would happen, that you're like, I can't believe I'm at the like right place, right time kind of a deal.
I mean, the right place, right time thing was really like I was saying about the training. Like, I think I was so lucky to be able to work so closely with those people in such like a tight knit environment. Because, like you
Mm-hmm.
said, it's like a lot of people that pass through there just blow up and go on to be these like untouchable people in wrestling who like you don't get to as a young rookie get in the ring with and learn from. There it's just a natural separation. And so I was really lucky to be able to learn from guys like that, specifically Cesaro, especially with where I've taken my style now and the things that are like inspiring me now. Um, Really, really lucky, because that's hard to come across now, and you don't necessarily know when you're getting it because that person hasn't gotten there yet. But I think everybody at that time was looking at him and knew that, okay, this is like we're lucky to have him here now in this little bubble and get to work with him now before he becomes a supernova.
All right. And it's so crazy how, he's been a professional for decades now, and he's still considered, talking about Cesaro specifically, he's still considered underrated. Like it's almost like people just still don't understand how incredible he is. It's just like it's very, very strange. But
Yeah, yeah, that underrated thing is tough. It's a tough thing to even to hear as the person that's being called underrated too. Because
mhm,
I've heard that before too, just in various places, and it doesn't feel great. It's like it
mhm,
just kind of sheds a light on like whatever the situation is, and it also feels like, well, dang, like if you just said I was good, then maybe I wouldn't be considered underrated.
right,
Like,
right,
I don't know. It's a weird way of thinking about it, but it's just kind of how it lands on me sometimes. Um, I see why people say it for sure, and it's like I can look at people and say, oh, they're underrated also, but like when you hear it, it's like if you just said they were really great, then maybe that would like create that opportunity for them to show the world that they're that great.
right. Yeah,
Just a thought.
exactly.
Yeah.
And I feel as if like if somebody does call you underrated, I feel like that gives you a little chip on your shoulder and gives you more to get out there and show you, you know, I'm not underrated. Like watch the tape.
Mhm. Yeah. But yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, I think it's kind of the same thing. It's just maybe it's just like how you process it because it kind of feels like it's like when people tell like a comedian like, "Oh, I don't care like what everybody says. You're really funny," or like, "Yeah,
Right.
all my friends hate your stuff, but I think you're hilarious." And it's like,
Right.
"Oh, dang! Like you could have
Kind of
just
like an
said
open-handed
the last
squat.
part."
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like that the backhanded compliment, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
So you debuted in Evolve back in 2014. Your debut match was with Timothy Thatcher. How did you get involved with Evolve, and what was your experience like with working with that company?
Well, I knew Gabe Sapolsky, the booker, for a while, just from crossover with other places that I'd worked and people that we both knew, and so he was familiar with me, but I think he was not that confident in me yet because I hadn't like taken a certain turn in my career where I really decided to focus on the kind of wrestling that suits me. And so when that moment came, I was already kind of on his radar, and my good friend and former tag team partner and training partner and all that, Drew Gulak, was working with Evolve at the time, and so we kind of made the connection, and I emailed Gabe Sapolsky and I was like, hey, we know each other. We've had talks in the past. You kind of said like you'd like to use me if I changed a couple things, and well, here I am. I've changed some things. Are we ready to do this? And he was like, yeah, absolutely. And he gave me an opportunity, put me in the ring with Timothy Thatcher in my debut at Evolve, which is, in hindsight, a pretty big move and a pretty bold move. And yeah, that was a match we had in the Brooklyn Lyceum in Brooklyn, which was like a broke down bathhouse. I loved that venue. And it's now a Blink Fitness, I learned this week. It's like a fancy
Oh,
gym now. It's like, dang, I used to like stand in there and get changed behind a curtain like 1 foot from the back row and just get like dripped on from a balcony and stuff. And now it's a fancy gym. And now Timothy Thatcher's on WWE TV. So,
yeah.
but yeah, that's how it
Crazy.
started. And then I think Evolve at the time was it was the place similar to how ROH is now, where technical wrestlers were looking at it as their opportunity to shine. And
Mhm.
so it was a place that all the guys like me wanted to be. And luckily, I made that connection, and it worked out for a long time. And I liked my time at Evolve a lot. So.
I think you and Drew, you had the tag titles at one time too, right?
Yeah, Drew had the tag team titles, and then Fred Yehi and I also had the tag team titles in Evolve. And then we ended up facing off in Ring of Honor. So, like I said, it's just that natural path.
Yeah, that's awesome. So last year you were ranked number 154 on the PWI 500 list.
Mhm.
Do accolades like that mean much to you, or do you just try not to pay attention to them and just focus on your job?
I don't know. Not some of them do. I think some of them do, but I don't know. That one's really kooky. The PWI 500 is like that year I was like 100 something, but they listed me as like 5'7", and then like the next year they got my height right, but I was like number like 390 or something. And it's just like I don't
Uh,
know. It's kind of random, but the accolades, I like maybe not that one, but in general, they do really mean a lot, especially as somebody who loved wrestling for a really long time, and every now and then you get a little numb to it, but when you sit down and think about it and just see the fact that even, your name is being talked about in this like realm of like, the top wrestlers or whatever, is just that's kind of huge, it's kind of insane. So it's like
right.
it's almost hard for it to really sink in as much as it should because it just like kind of becomes reality. And so I think it would be maybe helpful if all of us wrestlers would kind of take a second, sit back and let it sink in. Like, wow, like, we're really doing this. This is
Right.
yeah, even if it is PWI 500, like even though I think it's kooky, it's the PWI 500. It's
Right.
like everybody knows what that is. It's like it's
Mhm.
the freaking magazine on magazines racks everywhere. So
Right.
it is a big deal. Yeah,
I mean, that was one of the ones you kind of gravitated to growing up, like,
yeah,
oh,
right.
I gotta, yeah.
Before the internet, that's where you figured out who won and, you know,
New
Idaho
Japan, All
or
Japan,
whatever.
yeah, all that stuff.
That was where you found it. And then, yeah, so that's kind of a cool thing though. So let's kind of move on to where you're at now. Ring of Honor, you joined the organization in 2018. With the current stuff that's going on pandemic wise, what has your experience been like with the pandemic, and what has kind of been the toughest part of being a pro wrestler during a worldwide pandemic?
I mean, I really feel super lucky as a pro wrestler in the position that I'm in right now, because I spent the bulk of my career on the indies. You know, even when you're signed to Evolve, it's like it's still really the bulk of what you're doing is the indies, because you need to fill those dates, you need to get those paychecks, and you need to pay the bills, and that's how it is as an indie wrestler. And so, really, I just feel super lucky with how well the company that I happen to be working for is taking care of everybody. And I really feel for all the independent wrestlers who aren't in that position, because they got hit so hard by it. So for me, I mean, like I said, I just feel lucky, but I think I see so much hardship for the independents, and I hope that they can thrive through this. You know, even though it seems to be taking forever to get back to a environment where they can do that. You know, and it's like everybody's chomping at the bit to get back to like that sort of consistent schedule, and the time isn't here yet. So I'm really just pulling for the indies for the most part.
Yeah, it's been tough kind of watching different organizations and their approaches, and some people are really smart about it and some others are not. So it's just,
Yeah,
the
it's hard to do it right. It's really hard to do it right. It takes so much to do
yeah.
it anywhere close to like, completely right. And so I feel for them, even though, no matter what, like I feel for them. And I think it's really like, it's not on them. It shouldn't be on them. It's like when you see it and people criticize the way that people are handling these shows and stuff, it's like it's a reflection of the environment that we're in. You know, like nobody's being given the tools to really go about all of this safely. You know, in
Right.
any way. So it's like the way the indie shows are going are just a reflection of like what's happening in our countries. As big as that sounds, it's like I
Right.
don't know. I think it's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree 100%. As far as Ring of Honor goes, do you have any kind of like bucket list matches you're looking forward to? Like, I can't wait to face blah, blah, blah. Like, are there a couple people you're just like very excited to get in a program with?
Yeah, I've got to wrestle the Briscoes a couple times in tag matches, but like I'd really like to get the chance to have like a full on like big time stretched out like just hard ass tag match with those guys, because like they're just incredible. I mean, like I was saying, I hate to use the word underrated, but like those guys are one of the best tag teams there's ever been.
Hmm.
Um, and the another one in Ring of Honor, thinking of like who's there currently. I mean, I just got to wrestle Jay Lethal. That match just aired last week, and that was a big one. You know, to have a singles match main event with a ROH like mainstay and kind of ROH legend like that was a
Oh
big
yeah.
deal. So
And the fact that you made him tap.
Hmm.
yeah, not to mention, yeah,
No.
And that tap came quick. I saw the clip and I was like, it was like in. I was like, whoa, that was very quick. He applied that with some quickness.
yeah. I've been trying to rip heads off in that Pure Tournament. Like as I watch it back, I'm watching it back, and I'm like, oh man, I was really trying to take people's heads off with the face lock in that one.
Yeah.
Man, and it's crazy. And kind of we talked about this earlier, but so your debut was in the Survival of the Fittest tournament, where you are eliminated, ironically, by the person you're going up against, Jonathan Gresham. So
Mhm.
you two are slated to collide in the finals of the Pure Championship, which ROH has brought back after 14 years. So how does that loss in your debut motivate you, and what are you looking forward to with this match?
Mm. I mean, it would. Yeah, this is the chance to correct it all. To set the path right and to true my path here in Ring of Honor. Like you said, that was my first step in this company, was a loss to Jonathan Gresham, and it felt like a lot of the steps from that point on were similar, almost kind of stumbles. Trying to find my footing, and now finally, I think as everybody has seen over the course of this Pure Tournament, I've found my footing. I'm on the path now. It's been 3 submission victories in a row. The last one against Jay Lethal, tapped him out in the middle of the ring. I mean, I've found the path now. And so to have the opportunity, almost like poetic opportunity, to take the first match I had in this company and correct it and right that wrong, I'm not going to miss out on that shot. So yeah, it would mean the world to do that.
I think a lot of people were pegging this as, we're definitely seeing Lethal and Grisham in the final. I think it was just kind of the conclusion. So I think you tapping out Lethal definitely threw the wild card in there.
Yeah, that
So
was the big motivator, like you were saying about how, like, when people call you underrated, it, like, gives you that chip on the shoulder, you know? It's like the fact seeing so many people assume that, you know, and, like,
mhm.
I'll write all these brackets, like, "Oh, the finals are obviously gonna be looking at the blocks, Lethal and Gresham, Lethal and Gresham, Lethal and Gresham, Lethal and Gresham." Lethal didn't even mention my name in, you know, his post-fight promo leading up to our fight. It's like, you know, it's a promo. You're supposed to promote our fight. You're not even gonna mention my name. You know, that was fire under my ass
Yeah.
right there. So,
Mhm.
yeah, for sure. A lot of people were expecting that in the finals, and you know, it felt really great to like bust everybody's brackets
Right.
and have that moment of like, no, it's me and him now. So,
It's kind of like our Tennessee Titans last year in the playoffs.
mm,
We kept going and kept going, and we're like, we're ruining it for everyone. Yay.
yeah,
So,
yeah, it's a good feeling when you're on
yeah.
that side of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, you know, you talk about it and the good feeling. It's like Lethal just kind of overlooked you, didn't care, didn't think anything of you, and he knew that he was going to go against Gresham, and then literally in the middle of the ring, tap.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, but you know he's a professional. You know, he showed respect during the match, after the match. You know, I think he just overlooked me. He made a mistake. You know,
Mhm.
he got cocky, and
That strikes me as someone who didn't, review tape and, kind of maybe the accolades were coming in too soon and he was coasting on his name or something and learned the hard way not to
yeah,
overlook his
but you know,
opponent.
no hard feelings. You know, one of the best professional wrestlers around today. Somebody else, I think a lot of people throw that underrated name at for good reason because he's that good.
Yeah,
He's that good.
absolutely. Um, you may not be able to mention much about this if it's kind of some behind the scenes stuff, but could you give us an update on Lifeblood and like where or is there still plan to kind of bring you guys in full force after the pandemic, or it's definitely kind of a weird, limbo time right now?
Yeah, it is, and I think it's another one of those sort of I don't know, lucky timing moments where like it feels like Ring of Honor as a whole has kind of hit like a reset button, and a lot of things that were on the table that were maybe half built have been sort of pushed aside, and they've built some new things that I feel are growing even larger than those things from the past. And so I think now the goal is to focus on what's working and sort of treat this whole pure tournament as a reset for everybody involved. Like I just said before, it's no hard feelings towards anybody involved in that. There's no grudge there. You know, it's like a lot of the time in wrestling when you see groups have sort of changes or anything, they come in these big blow ups and like people start fighting and everything. But this is just like a natural moment of like a reassessment, I think, of what's working. And right now, what the focus is for me and for Ring of Honor also is the pure tournament. And so that means the focus for me is the pure title. And then, you know, when I win that pure title, then the focus becomes holding on to it. Then the focus becomes building up that, for lack of a better word, new foundation of Ring of Honor and building on that as this is the place where the greatest wrestling in the world happens. And to be able to really truly say that without question, you know, not just as a slogan, not just as a catchphrase to put on the end of a tweet, but a place where we can truly say that. So that is the focus now. As far as what's in the future for Lifeblood, I think we're all gonna have to find out, or maybe not find out. You know, maybe this is just like new season, you know,
Right.
reboot. Yeah.
Now, I
Well,
will tell you this, and Eli can vouch for this, that people that have came on this show have gone on to win the gold, with the exception of two guys that we won't say because they get mad at it, that went on and lost the tag team titles in New Japan, but that doesn't count. Everybody else has been on this show has gone on to win the gold. So you're in
and the
good hands.
last live wrestling that we attended was Ring of Honor in Nashville. So that was February. And it was
Stars are aligning.
it was the night Nick Aldis came out, and I think it was the day before PCO dropped the belt. He was still the champ, and then the next night he fought Rush and dropped it. So so not only are we ready for live wrestling again, we're ready for Ring of Honor live wrestling again. So
Yeah. Hell
So here's the time where you get to plug whatever you want. I know you got a new T-shirt out. So where can
That's
people
true.
keep up with you online? Where can people get that new T-shirt? As you see, I'm repping the Ring of Honor, so I got to get me a Tracy Williams shirt soon. So
Yeah, if you head to rohwrestling.com/shop, should be right there at the top. It's brand new. I'm pretty psyched on it. I was able to get the design done myself, which is something I really appreciate. Another thing, like working for a company like this, a lot of the big wrestling companies don't let you do that. They want creative control over everything. They want
And
to have
it's evident by that too.
right. They want to have their hand in every single thing, and it was very easy to get the permission to do that and to get the freedom to do that, the creative freedom to do that. So I'm really psyched on the shirt. I think it's really cool. I like it. I had the design done by a really talented designer. Their Instagram account for the designer is Shea Hardacre, SHEA Hardacre on Instagram. They're really dope. So yeah, check out that shirt. I think it's really cool. And yeah, that's like the main thing I have to plug right now. And of course, like you said, watch me win the Pure title because that's what we're putting into the world, right? That's the energy we're
Yep.
putting into the world.
Next
Is
week.
It's John Gresham and I going at it for the Pure Championship. I'm glad to have you guys in my corner. I really appreciate it. Thank you for having me on your show. And
Thanks for
yeah,
taking the time, man. It's
that's what I
got to
got.
be exciting. You got Halloween coming up, and then you're winning the Pure title, and we're
Yeah, it's
putting
a shame, man. In New York, Halloween is like the thing, man. Like you get to see so many things normally, and now it's like, what are we all gonna do?
I
Sit
know.
around, sit around in our houses in wacky outfits.
But you can have the Halloween hangover right after you sit there. You can hang out in your Halloween costume with that beautiful ROH Pure title.
Right, exactly. Yeah, maybe I'll go as Doug Williams or something for Halloween.
That's awesome.
That is the best. Well, Tracy, we appreciate you taking the time out, and we are looking forward to it. Monday, 7 p.m. Eastern. It is the Pure Tournament Finals. Going to see Tracy versus Gresham, and we're not going to have a repeat of Tracy's debut. We're going to have a change of course, and it's going to be that hand raised, and Tracy's going to have some gold to hang back there behind him on one of those shelves.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the positive energy. Appreciate it.
Of course. Thanks, Tracy.
Peace.